I'm Pablo, the director of the International Film Series, and I have with me a friend and a colleague who is a professor here at CU, Erin Espelie, and she has agreed to join me as we talk about a film that just dropped today on the International Film Series website, where we are screening, we have theatrical video on demand titles that if you watch them from our website, the distributors have been kind enough to say that they'll share the profits with us. And today we're talking about a documentary called Picture a Scientist. It's available for $6.99, so it's a nice affordable rate. And this documentary takes on the systemic sexism that has had a really a long and horrible impact on women and women of color, and also, of course, on academia in general. And it's a very eye-opening documentary. It has 6 chapters, and it even has a monster in the Antarctic because as you see when you watch the film, there's somebody who's very abusive to a female colleague. And it goes into the history of how changes get made in academia. And at this point, I guess I just want to let Erin sort of pipe in and give us some impressions, since you also saw the documentary.
Absolutely. Yes, I think the way it begins, and what I see as kind of a strong through line, is the way in which MIT in particular responded to claims of sexism, systemic sexism in MIT's ranks for professors, but also for research and students. And that effort was really led by Nancy Hopkins, who's a biologist. And she starts with a really subtle, but I think poignant account of some very famous scientists and her encounters with them. And for me, that really, that is the heart of the film, Nancy's story, although there are, of course, very compelling characters along the way who give us different accounts and different gradations in their experiences of sexism and racism in sciences.
Yeah, and in fact, one of my favorite characters was this person, Rachel Burks. We first see her wearing her Wakanda Forever shirt, and she really knows how to kind of hit all the marks in terms of sharing, but then also being optimistic, and sort of provides an inspirational figure. But we should also mention, of course, you were talking about MIT, and there we have sort of the League of Powerful Women who enacted some changes.
Yeah, and Nancy Hopkins is in the center there, and she was the one who really led the charge to initiate the report and worked with other female scientists on campus there. And it's continued. The impact of the MIT report, which really came out in 1996, but then gained further strength in 1999. And which is kind of amazing if you think about the timeline. I mean, here we are 20 odd years later, and now there's being a film made about this. So if anything, I kind of came away from the film feeling like it was a little late to the game. I mean, we needed this film for a long time, and we actually need much more.
We do need much more. And you know what's amazing to me is the intuitive changes. That small, they're incrementally small, but like what impact they have. For example, this is one of the screen grabs I took, is how the construction of a daycare center on campus, and then boom, number of tenured women faculty doubled. I mean, it's insane that didn't happen a long time ago, right? I mean, and it's common sense. And yet it's one of the problems that you have when, a bunch of dudes who don't think about daycare basically running the show, right? So
yeah, well, and CU still doesn't have a daycare that's officially associated. So there are so many strides that still need to be taken. And MIT has I think the administration has been incredibly receptive. And that was another catch point of the film, where you expect perhaps that the administration might be the nemesis, but in fact, it's not exactly. It acknowledges the problems,
Right.
and helps publicly acknowledge that changes need to be made, and understanding how to do that is a collective effort.
Right.
Or should
And
be.
it and right, it should be. It's there's sort of a blueprint there for how things can get better. And I think that this movie sort of opens doors in terms of letting people see. One of the other fascinating parts of the movie for me was the woman scientist who was talking about sort of binary ways of gender identification, and how it's kind of coded from when you were very young, and how hard it is to break that even when you're being conscious of it. So again, I think there's a lot of good information here that needs to be shared, and especially given our campus location. This is ideal for students, and for faculty, and for administrators. It's a good all around film. In fact, I know a lot of people at OIEC who probably would be interested in watching this, because you have some Title IX stuff happening here as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is an initiative that NEST, Nature, Environment, Science, and Technology Studio for the Arts, has taken on. We're planning a whole series, actually, this coming year on racism in science, and thinking even beyond how it affects people who are practicing science, but even the act of science. Are there ways in which bias is inherent in that? And the woman that you mentioned, Rachel, is also a big part of, or at least she touches on that in this film. And I think, again, there's much more to it. There's one of those chapters that you mentioned is the tip of the iceberg. And I think we could say that this film is also the tip of the iceberg in terms of what could be uncovered and should be uncovered in terms of STEM and systemic issues of sexism and racism.
So again, we've been talking about the documentary Picture a Scientist, which is available to watch on the internationalfilmseries.com website, and it will be available through June 26th. So don't put it on the calendar, and don't forget that this is a good watch, well worth seeing. Very interesting. And I want to thank Erin for joining me to talk about this.
Thank you so much, Pablo. Thank you so much to IFS for bringing this important film to our campus. Bye. Thanks.